One of the things I did want to show, we'll see. I'm actually going to shut it down. Okay, that's how long it took to shut down.
Voice recognition?
Voice recognition is there, similar to Windows 7, which was it's okay. What I've not tried yet is I use Dragon, Simply Speak. And I use that on my laptop, and actually works pretty nicely. I have not gotten the guts up to try that on my laptop or on the tablet yet, so I'll be curious. Let's see how. And I haven't booted this with it connected to the internal, or to the external monitor, but I just turned it on.
There's the beta fish.
Yep.
And
there's
the
we're up.
login screen.
So that's the startup time for Windows 8. Okay, now keep in mind some of that is because it's an SSD drive. Okay, but also the OS has been made a lot tighter. One of the other things to say is that essentially if there's something or an application or hardware that is approved for Windows 7, it's approved for Windows 8. And in theory, your performance should actually be equal to or better on Windows 8 than on Windows 7 with the same hardware. It's not bloat, it's actually compression in terms of functionality and all that fun stuff. So.
Is the character recognition English characters only?
I haven't actually looked into it. I gotta believe they're going to extend it if they're not doing it out at the beginning. Well, not only do they have the capability, but they've got the market for it. This is Microsoft, Google, all these. They are not American companies first anymore. Whether you say that's right or wrong, different story. But the market overseas is freaking huge for this stuff. So they've got to get this out of the gate with that. So.
What about Swipe? You know, Swipe is on your phones.
Mm-hmm.
To get stuff in, do they have Swipe capability on the tablet?
Swipe as far as card reader and all that kind of thing?
No, where you don't where you drag your finger over everything. I haven't seen anything about it.
Yeah, because I actually like it on the phone. It works pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be a nice thing to have on there.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
My boss travels a lot. He's an architect. He carries AutoCAD. I do not see necessarily that he would want to abandon his laptop or his travels, even a high-powered tablet. Am I correct?
Probably. The issue is going to be as much graphics.
Right.
So, you know, you take a look at, for example, this guy, I think this was about the most I could get, was 4 gig of RAM and the 128 gig hard drive. And CAD likes more memory than that.
Oh, yeah.
So, depending upon, especially if they're doing a lot of 3D modeling or the like. Now, what you can do, and this is kind of what I've got now, is, you know, what am I doing on this trip? Okay, I've got 3 answers. I've got the probably nothing, but someone might call me. I've got I may have to take some data or some information, you know, reply to some emails, all that kind of thing, but I really don't want to carry a backpack around. And I may have to seriously work. You know, and quite honestly, and again, this guy was about $1,500 retail. This guy cost me about $800, give or take, about 2 years ago. I have no idea. I just paid what my wife told me to pay. So right out of the gate, I've got multiple options. And similarly, whether somebody wants to have these, and it's just a question of what do I want to carry with me, in which case then it's at that moment in time, judge your options. Or it's a situation where I only want to purchase one device. Which device should I purchase? In which case, then you know which one's more valuable. This has portability. This has a lot more portability. This is easier to function with. This is a little less. This can be. You can add a keyboard and mouse to this. This takes care of a lot of the issues. So on and so you really have. As we said, you're in a solution-rich environment. You can do a lot of different things. Yeah.
Question.
Yep.
How do Windows 8 fit into the cloud?
As far as the cloud goes? Good question. You know, we talked briefly about the cloud with Facebook and all that being the killer apps. So let's take Simplex-IT, for example, because they're a fine, upstanding company who you should be doing all your IT work with, in case you didn't know that already. We basically do probably 90% of our work is cloud-based, in the sense that all of our email is cloud-based through Office 365. Our remote monitoring is done using product-level platforms, which we're using the cloud-based edition. So all of the data for our partner companies, our partners, customers, whatever, is all stored there. Most of the critical documents that we use here for monitoring and maintaining is also up in the cloud via SharePoint. So from that standpoint, as long as we have a good internet connection, I can get access to this. And one of the built-in functionalities and capabilities here is remote desktop. So I can use this to remote desktop into customers' desktops to help support and all that kind of fun stuff, or back to my desktop at the office in case I wanted my desktop at the office to do some additional work. That said, if I don't have an internet connection, life stinks as far as cloud-based. So you've got to match that. We had, at one point, it was about a year or two ago, where somebody actually hit the telephone pole outside of our office. It was not me, and it wasn't Susie. I just want to make sure that she's not.
You have to have a screening order.
Yeah, I did, and for once you followed it, thank you very much. Best investment of a pit bull I ever had. But we basically just went to a restaurant, used their wireless, ate like pigs. Anyway, so that's that. I do want to move over and talk a little bit about the desktop, or actually let Kevin talk a bit about the desktop and the server and all that kind of fun stuff. So we'll have some time for some Q&A.
All right, let's flip this over here. Go ahead and make a mess.
Yeah, we had a bet because we've got essentially 4 electronic devices, 3 drinks. We know something's spilling.
Don't they have sippy cups for IT people?
I think if they wanted, that would be brilliant, actually. I would go to thinking.com with that one. I think that'd be brilliant.
I'm going to see if I can bump this up a little bit.
Kevin, have you drunk out of a sippy cup at home yet?
No. No, he's doing good with bottles.
Not me.
Let's see if I can't do this. So otherwise this is going to be really tough to see anything on.
Yeah, Kevin, with some help from his wife,
Yes,
they
actually,
just...
here. And I say, this is probably the last thing you're going to agree upon between the 2 different versions of Windows. And Bob mentioned this in the blog post. The baby is cute. Yep. So, what I did...
How much photoshopping went into the kid? Okay.
Quite a bit. 16 hours straight. All right, so what I did was, I did want to check out Windows 8. I did download the original consumer preview, or developer beta that came out back in January, I think it was, December, January, something like that. So I was playing around with that and thought, okay, this isn't bad. I actually had a small tablet I could put it on, and okay, life was good. I decided to, this time around with the new consumer preview, load it as virtual machines on my computer, where I could play around with it a little bit more. In addition to that, I also downloaded it and set up a virtual machine for the new version of Server that's coming out. So I've got one Server 8 over there, and I've got a regular Windows 8 over here. I guess I'll start with the Windows 8 while you've got Bob's stuff fresh in your mind. Now, I don't know how well you can see Bob actually log onto his computer or onto his tablet. He just literally dragged his finger up and was given the login prompt. Well, I can't really do that. If you see me, I'm kind of going spastic here with my mouse. Nothing's happening. The whole Metro interface is just based on that being able to use touch with. For me to log on here, I have to click somewhere in the bottom of the screen, drag my mouse up, and let that fly up. And again, here's the baby. I did the same thing with a picture, and you notice over here on the left, there's a switch to password. So you can do that if you really wanted to. Of course, I don't know how to go back to the picture. Now You're all going to know my password. I. Oh, and I did it wrong. Now, say this brings home a real good point. Do you see how clumsy this is to do on a keyboard and mouse versus on the tablet? This is the start of the grief that I've had setting up a Windows 8 test environment on a keyboard and mouse computer. And this is the same argument everyone is having. To put it rather bluntly, I don't know. They might be planning to do that. It just sucks for the billion or so computers that are left behind.
Or touch
Kevin, you
screens.
can use a regular two-finger salute there with the Control-Alt. Now bring up the volume and you can key it in.
Right. But that also brings up the point, I think I remember hearing that Windows 8 introduced somewhere like 20 or so new keyboard shortcuts. Oh great, more crap I have to memorize and or teach people. This is wonderful. I love the forward thinking that's going on here. Again, this is the lovely Metro interface. Oh, I can't really drag things like I could on the tablet. There's this convenient bar on the bottom. Bob showed off how there's the different swipe motions off of the screen. Well, okay, here. Oh, look, I'm moving my mouse from the right. Yeah, clicking. Nope, that don't do it either. This is really fun, isn't it?
I'm enjoying it.
What I eventually found out was if you take your mouse to the lower right-hand corner, and when I say lower right-hand corner, my fingernail is too big of an area. It's smaller than my fingernail where you have to move your mouse. On the virtual machine, that's a pain because I can move off of the screen. On a computer, it's a little bit easier because you can't physically go that far. But yeah, everything here was designed for the whole touch interface. Keyboard and mouse, just not a very pleasant experience. But then I still have the same options here. I'm already looking at my start menu. Settings, I can do stuff in here, yada yada. Yay, all my applications. What I just pulled up was a list of all the things installed on the computer. For Bob, that's just a quick swipe from the bottom up. With me, no amount of dragging or clicking down to the bottom did that. I accidentally right-clicked one day and, because I'm already looking at it. To bring up that list of all applications, you have to right-click on the Metro. I don't really want to do that. Oh, here we go. There. Right-click and, oh look, now I can see all my apps. More of a learning curve. Okay. Lower left-hand corner. Again, this is the area about the size of my fingernail that you have to hit to bring up the list of, or bring up the start menu. Woohoo! This is lovely. Now, one thing you can do. Hey, look! I've got a regular old Windows desktop. Again, this is without the start button, and I am still bound to move the mouse in the lower left-hand corner. There's my start. Lower right-hand corner. There's my. What is that one called if it's not the start? I forget what that was. Yeah, tray for lack of a better term. Well, I mean this is the system tray down here. But yeah, the ability to get into all of your settings and whatnot, it's just clumsy and not very intuitive.
You're using a mouse, but do you think they might do something with a touchpad if you have a laptop where you'll be able to do gestures?
I can still do. This behaves just like a mouse, so I can.
Yeah, the problem. So you're bringing up a good point, and that is that if you have a mouse, a laptop that has this or has the nub or whatever, the problem is that these are not standard. Is that these require drivers provided by the third party, the manufacturers, and there's no way that we're going to get everybody to agree on how to make that interface work. So it's an issue. It's a big issue, I think.
Let's see, what other fun things have I come across here? Start. Let's go back here. Let's check out Internet Explorer 10, the latest and greatest. supports HTML5 more or less. It's at least better than IE9, so developers are happy about that. Bob showed you the real quick, here's the list of websites I've gone to in the past by just moving my finger up or sliding to the top of the screen. Again, a whole bunch of nothing when you do that with the mouse. Oh, you got to right click. I would have loved to have known that because it took me about 10 minutes to figure out how to do that.
You'll notice a trend here that the interface for Windows 8 is kind of ignoring the desktop. And it's not even the functionality isn't there, because the functionality is there, but it's hidden. And it's not intuitive in terms of how to find it or get to it. For the fact that someone needs to know that this little piece of real estate at this little part of the screen over there, if you click that once, when I was younger, I remember hearing things like that in Dungeons and Dragons games. You know, that you had to do this, and then the door opens. You know. Okay, no Dungeons and Dragons players. All right, I get it. Neither was I was kidding.
Let's see what else is in here. I think that was, oh yeah, the everyone's used to log off your computer, shut down your computer. Well, okay, well, the first thing, I actually built a test domain. The server rates and Active Directory domain controller. I didn't set up any shares or anything. I just wanted to see what the whole interface looked like, joining into a domain and whatever. So the first time I logged on my computer, I accidentally logged on to the local user. Well, okay, fine. All right, how do I'm gonna log off this one and, oh, log off's gone. This was another 5-minute hunt to figure out where the logon screen was. I eventually found out, oh, my name. Cool, there it is. So it's...
They listed the changes that need to happen in existing domains to support server Windows 8.
Windows 8 just on its own will work. You're not going to get some of the other benefits from the new Active Directory schema. A lot of them are dealing with security. There's the integration between, like you saw me accidentally load the Xbox thing. That whole piece of it, Bob mentioned the integration with Windows Live. That can all be controlled through domain, but you've got to be able to be on that level. You have to have the Active Directory for that.
One of the things that is going to be interesting when it finally hits the streets is part of the issue is with Windows 8, whenever we start talking about servers and networks and all that kind of thing, we want to manage more resources using less resources, whether it be fewer network technicians or fewer whatever. One of the interesting things is going to be, right now, from an Active Directory standpoint, which is the collection of all your resources through Microsoft, you can't manage iPads, you can't manage tablets. They do what they're going to do. There's some third-party tools, but well, people are holding their breath as far as Windows 8 goes. The Windows 8 RT, however, is not going to be that much better. There's not going to be a lot of Active Directory-based top-down management that's going to be part of the RT version of Windows. So one of the other things on server side is a lot more focus on core. A lot more focus on core.
Let's see. I think for Windows 8, that's as much grief as I want to put up with right now. Well, I know I probably should show this. I was mentioning the whole integration with Windows, the Microsoft Live. More PC settings. And if we go over here to privacy. Oh yeah, by default, this is how Windows 8 comes out of the box. So, I guess the first thing you say, let apps use my location. Okay, fine, that's off. That's like if you were on a tablet or something that actually had the GPS built into it, or a cell phone radio, it would triangulate you and it would share your location. Now the next one that comes default on, let apps access my name, picture, and other domain account info. Okay, so that means any app I install now has access to all of that stuff. By default, this was on. I came in here and turned it off last Saturday. The next one, help improve Windows Store by sending URLs for the web content that apps use. So every web page that I use is now going to get transmitted back. This is a great security thing, isn't
And
it?
keep in mind, Windows Store, not Microsoft. This is so that they can know what to try to sell you. Okay? You're used to participate on Microsoft customer experience or whatever, so that we can know by by errors or whatever debugging. That's not what this is. This has to do with their store.
On the location services, even without a GPS, will try to get your IP and your latitude.
Yeah. There are things, if you go into the Active Directory, I did find the particular group policy object that will let you disable this stuff. I purposely left it alone for this, but you know, this is now something that, you know, us as an IT provider, we got to make sure customers know this if they want to do it, if they want it turned off, and you know, that's just more stuff we have to plan for.
Yeah, when we talk about group policy, similar to the whole network thing, group policy are things that we can use by just creating one policy. We want all computers to be this way or that way. We can then push that policy down so that all the machines behave with that policy. And usually what ends up happening is there's a two-tier upgrade. First of all, now we have these new abilities on the desktops. You know, with Vista, power management, application management. Some of those things were new. Well, unless you upgraded your Active Directory so that it understood that, so your domain controllers understood that, you couldn't control that. And you couldn't control it on an XP box because the XP box didn't have that functionality. So the similar sort of thing to a degree is going to happen with Windows 8 boxes, unless you migrate the functionality level, whatever the term is, I forget. I'm sorry? Yeah, forest prep is how you do it, but there's the level that you're at. Function level, thank you. Unless you upgrade that to the Windows 8 or upgrade at least the schema, it's not going to be able to control those things.
And I figure Windows 8, I could go into a little bit more of the detail on it, but it's pretty much the same story over and over and over. Everything is designed around Metro. The PC interface is just annoying, and I just don't like it. So I want to put the angry thing behind me and go to my happy place.
More pictures.
Yes, look at the baby. No. This is Server 8. Server 8 is going to be coming out as well with Windows 8. And there's, right now, I don't remember all the different flavors. Right now you can beta the data center version, which allows unlimited Hyper-V capability. And you can install what's known as Server Core. Server Core is Windows Server 8 with absolutely no GUI on it whatsoever. Your everything you do is through a command prompt and or PowerShell. So anyone who's familiar with the Linux environment or worked with computers like 20 years ago, welcome, you're here again.
Yeah.
My DeLorean is out back. But for this, I decided to install the GUI because that's what I've been trained on to use for the last 10, 12, 15, long time. And good old Server Manager. Server Manager, they changed it around. Microsoft, Bob mentioned they're wanting to do more with less. We have to manage more servers with fewer things, or we have to use less stuff to manage the same amount of crap we had before. Microsoft did do a good thing on Server 8 where you can manage multiple computers or multiple servers all from one place. My poor laptop here can't fire up more than one server at a time. So what I did was I started up my Server 8 here, and I can do all of my management for it from here. Now say I had 10 servers in my environment, I can install Server Core on 9 of the 10 and do whatever I want with those, and I can leave one of them with Server 8 with the GUI and manage all the others from it. So now I've got 9 servers that I'm better using all of the memory, all of the hard drive space, all of the processing power. They're going to be dedicated to what I wanted them to do in the first place. They're not wasting anything on the overhead of a GUI. So this was actually a very nice change that I saw come from it.
And this is especially helpful if you've got servers that really have one task. So if you have, for example, a SQL server, and it's just running one instance, one critical instance of SQL Server, you could save, you know, up to a gig, not quite a gig, of precious memory that the OS would be consuming otherwise to be just doing SQL stuff.
Yeah, the server piece of it, actually this GUI doesn't even let you do everything that you can do. Microsoft is absolutely pushing more towards that core model and using PowerShell to do all of your management. I recently watched a demo on Server 8 where someone had multiple Server 8s all working in the same environment and sharing resources between them. I watched someone pick 3 USB drives off of one and move it to another one, and people never would have noticed that something was going wrong. You can actually just completely seamlessly move stuff around. That's actually the Hyper-V piece of it, but yeah, it works very nicely. Let's see here.
Oh, one other thing on the Windows 8 box for compatibility purposes, they had the XP mode where you run basically an instance of XP. Instead, it's been replaced with full Hyper-V. So.
Let's see here. And speaking of Hyper-V, I wish I could have shown more, but I really haven't had too much time to set stuff up. Been kind of working with kid in one arm and working all this stuff on the other. But the new version of Hyper-V, I am quite sure that VMware is extremely scared with what's going on. The new version of Hyper-V, Hyper-V 3.0, can do absolutely everything that VMware can do, plus more. So VMware really needs to step up their game. Like I said, the whole moving of one server from one cluster to another, completely seamless. I believe the person was playing it was one of the Avengers movies. I think it was Thor. He fired up a copy of Thor and moved that server to another piece of hardware, and the movie never stopped one bit.
Do you know if they ever plan on making the Hyper-V, the virtual PC images compatible with Hyper-V?
I think there's a conversion tool for that one.
For what?
It'd go from VPC to Hyper-V.
Oh yeah, there are conversion tools.
Yeah. Well, they use the same VHD. I think when you import it, it upgrades the VHD to whatever the Hyper-V version is, and then there was something special. I know you can do it. I remember reading it. At the very least, there's other migration software, like we use StorageCraft, which will do any of the conversions from one environment to another, physical to virtual, virtual to virtual, physical to physical, whatever. It should convert all that stuff.
Yeah, I've been involved with one project that they've been migrating servers over from Hyper-V from VMware to Hyper-V. And I don't remember the third-party tool, but they've been using a third-party. Now that involves actual migrating it from one portion of a SAN to another, so there's actual file motion as well. And they've been using third parties, but it's been working very nicely, very seamlessly.
Something nice that they finally added with Windows Server. Anyone who's managed a Windows Server, you know your MSDN account, it lets you download ISOs of whatever application it is. Well, finally, Server 8 will let you just mount them into the OS. There's no third-party application needed anymore. So it makes life a little bit easier. No more installing daemon tools or virtual clone drive or anything like that.
How does Hyper-V handle VDI? Because I think VDI would be really nice to get between laptop and tablet.
Refresh my memory on VDI.
Virtual desktops.
Oh, yes, it has it, but I haven't looked anything what it does. That's going to go towards the remote desktop and all that stuff. I know, I remember reading or seeing or hearing about it, but I didn't go any detail or anything like that. So yeah, let's see. Let's do something simple. Let's add a role. Okay, my Server 8 box. First thing you do is you select a server. And this is pretty similar to what you saw before with all the other version of server. You could choose whatever particular role you wanted. And let's do the print. Add. Next. 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 Sure, let's install that. Install. Pretty simple. You can do all this through PowerShell. You'd have to look up the exact commands to do it. Actually, if this works, I'll be amazed. I keep unmounting the install. Oh, there we go. And again, I just did that by right-clicking the server and installing it. If this was another server, I could just right-click that one. If I wanted to do it on another one, right-click that one. Or as I start up the wizard, I can select all the different ones I want to install on there. So that works out a lot better from a management point of view. Something new with Server 8, storage pools. I've not created any because I don't have the hardware available right now. What Microsoft has done here is they've made storage 1,000,000 times easier than previous version of Windows. But prior to this, you have to rely on third-party software to expand a hard drive out. Say your server had a terabyte of hard drive space, it ran out. You usually have to either migrate data to another share, or like I said, use third-party stuff to expand out your volume. You don't have to do that anymore. You create your storage pools, and you just keep adding things to it, and Microsoft handles all the stuff in the background. And you can do this with inexpensive disks. So if you had just a regular server in your office and you wanted to, say it had 4 hard drives in it and you had 8 slots, you can pop in those other 4 drives, tell it, hey, go install these, add it to my pool. I've now expanded out my storage by that much more. Now, a lot of people are complaining about why did I buy this $30,000 SAN? This thing's now useless. No, it's not. Server 8 will talk to that SAN, and Microsoft worked with the different vendors on actually being able to send commands directly to the SAN. So if you have, say, 2 servers on your SAN, what you can do is, say you wanted to move 100 gig of stuff from one drive to the other. Instead of Windows talking to the one hard drive area, pulling it to that VM, and then back to the SAN, that's quite a bit of I/O right there. Now Windows Server 8 can just tell the SAN, move this from here to there. Done. So there's a lot of optimization that went into SAN storage and whatnot. This also creates basically a cheap SAN for anyone who doesn't want to pay for the massive, or doesn't have a need for the massive hardware and costs associated with a SAN. Originally, I wanted to have a couple USB drives and 2 laptops and move this stuff around, but it just didn't happen. Trying to think what other fun stuff I've come across.
I've got a question. What about encryption? Does it have its own native encryption, or do you still have to go to a vendor for that?
There is something in there. I haven't looked up what it is though.
You've got the BitLocker.
Yeah, I say there's BitLocker.
Yeah.
You obviously have to have the TPS. No, not TPM.
No, you don't have
TPM.
to. You don't have to, but
it helps.
Yeah. It's a lot more secure with it.
Question, Bob. Did they keep most of the Windows 8, most of it looks like Windows 7, just with some more changes to it? So you have BitLocker, direct access?
Yeah, I believe it's relatively speaking it's the same in that area. Give or take.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Question was direct access BitLocker from a security standpoint, is there much different than that? Okay. And we can stick around for a few, because obviously when we start talking server, there's a subset of people who are more interested than others and all that kind of good stuff, so don't want to go too far on that.
Is upgrade from Windows 7 possible, or are you much better off just starting with
Okay.
fresh partition?
Upgrade or fresh partition? First of all, I'm old. Therefore, I'm still of the opinion that you don't upgrade operating systems. You install from scratch. Keep in mind also, everything's going 64-bit. And in a lot of cases still, especially on desktops, we still have 32-bit installations, even if the hardware was 64-bit. And there's no upgrade of a 32 to a 64-bit platform, so you got to go that route. beyond that, I believe you can install Windows 8 over a 7. And actually, I think I had the option of doing that when we installed this thing.
I did it, it worked quite well.
Okay, cool.
In fact, it kept my Windows 7 desktop.
Did it? Okay.
On desktop.
One thing I didn't mention about server 8, a big problem, if people, generally speaking, people didn't like using Core. It was limited on what you could do with it, and if you had any kind of application that called for a GUI, even the smallest way, you couldn't do it. Something they introduced with Server 8, okay, so prior to Server 8, if you had Core and wanted to switch to the GUI, you just had to wipe the server and start it over. There was no way around it. And with Server 8, they actually made the GUI removable and re-addable. So you can install it with the GUI, do what you have to, and then say you've got your application all set, good, done, ready to go. Remove the GUI piece of it, and you'll have all those resources back to the server. So that was something nice that they definitely added in Server 8.
You're still recommending that users install the 32-bit Office, correct?
For right now, yes, and that's really, it has nothing to do with the version with the Office, it has to do with the add-ons. 64-bit, so far I haven't seen any real issues with 64-bit Windows 7. The only issues I've seen with 64-bit of Office 2010 are the add-ins. Some of the add-ins are more compatible.
What are some of the common problems?
They don't work.
No, I mean, which of the add-ons?
Oh, the social connector originally really had problems with 64-bit. There's a lot of the add-ons are by third parties, so you know your mileage may vary. But I had several problems with the 64-bit, and then I went to the 32-bit, and I haven't had an add-on fail with me since then. Two real quick last things. Again, Microsoft, there's actually some third-party apps that people have put together already that will add the start button in your Windows.
Actually, I'll show you.
Okay.
And look at the baby.
So people are going to be going after that relatively soon. One other thing is when you're talking about buying from Microsoft, and again, this isn't for necessarily the onesie twosies, but from a business standpoint, Microsoft has specials and deals that they make available to their customers. The 4 best months to buy Microsoft software are May and June, because that's right before Microsoft's fiscal end of the year, where they're trying to make sure things look good, and then November and December, because that's both the holiday and the end of year where people are spending their last budgets. The months immediately succeeding those are when there's not much going on. So right now, there are specials involving cloud services. There are specials involving buying software through partners, and those are going to be there between now and June 30th. So keep that in mind. The other is that Microsoft will always make a lot more resources available for discounts and for training for products the few months before they come out and the few months after they come out. So if any of you are looking for either training, certification, or anything like that on these, now is the time to start looking at that. Because Microsoft wants you to learn the new stuff, so you'll go out and support the new stuff, so people will buy the new stuff. So there's a lot more training and stuff available for that, and there's going to be more so as time goes on.
I believe back there someone mentioned about the Explorer. Explorer is still absolutely here. You can browse your whatever folders just like you could before. Once you pay close attention though, look what's here now.
Ribbon.
Windows Explorer now integrates the ribbon, so it's not going away if you don't like it. So you have to get used to that one.
New task managers, those too. New task managers.
Oh yeah. Say for anyone who's had to do or had the lovely privilege of having to kill an application because it hasn't worked, look, Task Manager, the user-friendly version, or
Awesome.
the one the rest of the IT folk can use. A lot more detailed version of all the things that are running in the background and whatnot. Oh, and I could probably show they updated the copy. Ooh.
I needed to add a throttle.
Yeah, throttle would be great. But yeah, they updated this particular screen as well. So. Oh, and nice thing, you can pause it in the middle. So if you did need to do something, you can hit pause, and whenever you want to get back to it, let it go back to town. So that was a nice little thing. Windows, this is Windows 8. Windows 8 also does have the ability to mount an ISO just natively into the operating system. So no more installing virtual clone drive, daemon tools, whatever. It's just built in there.
Do you know if they added the robocopy version where if it breaks off, it picks up where
That was built into Windows 7? I don't know. And if I could get to
Why
it.
don't we wrap up?
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to show was, like Bob mentioned, there were people doing third party to get your start button back. There's a couple of them out there. Classic Shell was the one I liked better. Start 8's another one. There's a third one that it was like a Vista. It would emulate the Vista start menu. Ta-da! So, there are third-party things out there to bring some of this functionality back. Is it something I would push out to a corporate environment? No. I've already read where this thing will cause you grief. It will break things because it's running. I haven't come across anything yet, but I haven't had too much of a chance to play with it. Things are looking for the very specific Metro start menu. This is not it. So it will cause you some grief. If you don't happen to come across those, go to town, use it. But yeah, this one seemed to at least look and perform exactly like you'd expect it to. From what I read, it is customizable too, so you can move stuff around and whatever.
In a nutshell, I think here's what's going on. So far, overwhelmingly, the biggest grief that I've heard as far as Windows 8 goes has been the Metro interface and its lack of cleanliness, whatever you want to call it, for the desktop users. Which is interesting because all the other stuff has been relatively positive. And if you take a look at the last two OS releases, which would be Windows 7 and Server 2008 R2, and then prior to that Vista and Server 2008, they've actually been, Microsoft's been 3 for 4. And I think they learned a lot from the Vista thing. So my suspicion is that the actual release of Windows 8, there's going to be two big issues. Issue number one is going to be the Metro interface as it pertains to desktop users. And I can't believe that Microsoft is not going to address that between now and then. It would not seem to be that much of a showstopper as far as coders go. Issue number two, in my opinion, is going to be the ARM tablets. The ARM tablets, in order for them to hit that $400 to $500 price range, it's going to be interesting to see. And it's just because no one's really come out with them yet. That's my biggest concern. Other than those two, so far Windows 8 actually looks pretty good. Okay, so take that with a grain of salt.
What kind of price points are they looking at?
I have not seen those yet. I'm going to be really surprised. First of all, the price point for the tablet has got to be less than the iPad. If not, just pack it up and go home. You know, so that I see in the $400 to $500 range. As far as beyond that, I suspect it'll be the same price point as the versions are currently at.
What do you think of this 365?
Office 365. We have several clients. We probably got about 15 clients using either BPOS or Office 365. For smaller organizations, Office 365 is a way to have your email hosted up in the cloud by Microsoft. Essentially, you get the full functionality, 90% of the functionality of Exchange, and you're paying anywhere from $4 or $3 a month up to $10 or $20 a month, depending on what you want to do. It's successful, no question about it. And we're just finishing up a client, migrating them over to 365 this week. Microsoft lowered the prices for that, so now just a mailbox is $4 a month, and a mailbox plus link and SharePoint and all that kind of fun stuff is $9 a month. $8 a month, excuse me. It's compelling.
So they want you to do that along with your cable bill and your car payment?
Yeah, as opposed to buying a server. You know, you don't have to buy the server, you don't have to buy the Exchange cals, you don't have to buy the anti-spam, you don't have to buy the UPS for the box, you don't have to buy the maintenance for the box, the backups for the box. Now, I will tell you right now, I'd rather, from a greedy capitalist, I'd rather sell you the Exchange. I will make more money on either a small business server or an Exchange server than I will in an Office 365. And we're talking with a potential client now who we've talked about it. They've got about 40 seats or whatever, and the guy wants to absolutely have his email in-house. So, fine, no problem. We'll talk about an SBS box with the Exchange and all that kind of fun stuff. But the number of customers who could truly justify, yeah, we should have our email in-house and all that kind of thing, versus cloud-based are, in my opinion, are becoming fewer and fewer. The cloud, it's easier and it's a lot less cost. Now, that said, let me make one very big caveat to that. It goes down. I don't care whose it is you're using. You're using Google Docs, you're using Office 365, you're using any of the other guys, third parties. All of them have had outages of a few hours over the past year or so.
Email was down yesterday.
At minimum.
Yeah. You know, so that's the risk you take. Now, at the same time, we've had clients, for example, we have one client, actually the guys we're just migrating from, they lost email for about 8 hours because of Time Warner. You know, Time Warner made changes to their DNS servers without telling you about it. Oopsies. You know, so.
Is there a way to do a hybrid?
Yes, you can do a mixed Exchange environment or a hybrid environment. It's more expensive because now you've got the cost here and the cost there. And in those cases, the mailbox has to be one place or another. So you're not actually duplicating the mailbox. So what you end up doing is you end up, if you do the mixed bag, you end up having one service go down, then those users lose that connectivity, but the other ones are fine. Now, some of the services, like for example, we have a service we use called Reflection. And Reflection is an anti-spam front end. They also have an add-on to that where if the client's email goes down, they can still send and receive emails from their domain on this web-based service. So that works nicely, but you have to make sure that your service is configured for that. Okay? Don't want to hold it because we're running out of time if we haven't run out already. Want to thank you all for coming here. Hopefully we've got a raffle, some stuff to give away, and we'll also, for those of you who are not getting our e-newsletter, we will add you to our e-newsletter list. Won't that be swell and fun? And thank you. Thanks for coming.